We are live. Hey, security peeps. We are live with another edition of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. It is CISO Thursdays, and we're all dancing. I guess this is like, are we going to be like the Ellen show where we just dance? We show up.
That's the one thing I miss about her show, just the random breakouts of dancing. Right? Just like in the middle of a talk, like, I had a really rough childhood, but you know what?
Then she does one of these. We start to do some moonwalking or something. So I am Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping awesome leaders hire great talent. We have the whole entire crew here. Chris Foulon. Oh, before I get into the crew, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I would say that multiple times. Subscribe. And what else do I need to tell folks to do?
Follow everyone in the show.
That's right.
Notifications.
Turn on your notifications. Find Breaking Into Cybersecurity on your favorite podcast listening platform and subscribe and give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, right. Buy our books.
Yeah, buy the
Follow
book.
us. Hire us.
On Naomi's poll on ageism.
Yes.
Right. That's right. Get on Naomi's poll. Okay. Chris Foulon.
Howdy, everyone. Cybersecurity person and career coach and celebrity specialist. I don't know. Podcaster for the week.
Wait, did you say celebrity specialist? What does that mean? What is that?
What is celebrity specialist?
I don't know. Ask Ken Underhill. He always tags me as celebrity news.
He gave us, Ken Underhill is so funny. Oh my God. He put little gold medals around our necks. That was so funny. It's like, you need to follow these people. And we had the gold medals. So it was awesome. All right, Jamie James Azar.
Did you just call me Jamie? It was Alex. Now it's Jamie. Hi, everyone.
I did. I make up names for you. I make up names for my favorite people.
Yeah, I was Alex for a while. You guys remember when I was Alex? All right. So, hi, everyone. I'm James Azar, host of the CISO Talk podcast and a CISO. Naomi.
Hi, what's up? What's my nickname, Renee? I'm really curious here.
The Naomi Buck. I don't know yet. I got to get one.
That's not so fun.
You're the Naomi right now, but we'll come up with something.
James can tell me if I'm pronouncing my own name wrong because I don't speak Hebrew, but apparently I am saying my name wrong. It's Naomi the whole time.
Naomi.
So, yeah.
There's a bunch of different ways to say your name. Naomi.
Oh, God. Naomi, not Naomi. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Naomi Buckwalter. I'm here to help you break into cybersecurity. And let's do it. Let's go.
Our favorite day of the week. Zoe says hi. Paul says hi. Let's keep this YouTube alive. Paul from Jacksonville, Florida. So let us know where you are chiming in from. Please keep us posted on that. So topic for today is a topic that actually, Chris has something.
Speaking of Paul, there's going to be an amazing event that he's organizing tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Follow his posts. Amazing security folks are going to be on there sharing career advice for those from the transitioning from the military. So helping them with their transition and their career.
Naomi, I heard I got a little bird whispered in my ear. You might make a surprise stop tomorrow at the event.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the goal, right? Wait, where is it? Where is it? I know about it, but I don't think I was invited. But I would love to come.
I'm pretty sure you were. And so, Paul, get on it, buddy. Send Naomi the invite right now, man. What are you doing? Are you sleeping? What's going on in Jacksonville?
Paul is doing the good Lord's work. All right. So Zoe is here from Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, Zoe. Joshua's
ATL,
back.
Baby. ATL.
Joshua's back from Wichita, Kansas. So, folks, today we are talking about ageism in the workplace, ageism in IT, ageism in cybersecurity. I took some classes, some grad school classes, probably a dozen years ago. And at the time, the statistic was that ageism started at age 35. So
Don't forget the reverse too. Like you can be too young and be treated like you don't know anything, you know? So reverse ageism too. That could be a thing.
Well, Ken,
it is a thing.
there's no such thing as reverse ageism. There's ageism, and that's it.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
just regular ageism. But we want to know like both directions.
Right?
Bi-directional, yes.
It's like multi-directional ageism. An old guy doesn't want to hire a young guy doesn't want to hire an old guy, and at the end of the day, it's just ageism.
Yeah,
you're right.
It is. So I know, Naomi, this was your kickoff. We can have you kick it off, but yep, it's a topic that I am definitely have done research for.
I bogarted this from James. It was his idea to talk about ageism because he had a story. He was on fire about a story, right? Somebody that you were mentoring? Tell us.
Yeah, so someone that I think not only myself, but Chris also knows, and a few other people were all going through mid-career changes where they were leaving one industry they were in to go into cyber, break into cyber, and they're getting interviews, but that's where it stops, right? They get an interview, and you can tell that in the interview, the questions that are being asked are more around like, with all of your experience and everything you've done, do you think you'll find this role very, very fascinating? Or do you think you'll still be challenged by taking this role? And the person can answer absolutely, totally, yes, I'm in it. I want to break in. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you. And then they never hear back from these companies. They end up getting an email that just says bye-bye.
That's pretty horrible.
So what makes you think that's ageism, though?
I could tell you in interviewing for like operational roles, kind of like a SOC role, like when there were older candidates, the question is like, will they be able to keep up? Are they just here to get a paycheck? Will they put in the extra effort? Like those are the types of things that are said when like older candidates come in, like, oh, they already retired once. This is just like an extra role for them. And I remember when several years ago when I did hire someone that was retired, he was the hardest worker ever. And it's like, geez, you're retired and like you're putting in more effort than some of the new folks. And he's like, I love my job. I love helping people. I love IT. Like this is what I do. Like I don't want to retire. I just hit the age.
I mean, what you're saying, Chris, sounds more like ageism. James's example, it's like it's so hard to prove, right? Like that's the kind of the point. It's like we know you're kind of doing this, but we can't prove it.
Well, you can.
That's what's so hard.
No, here's the thing. You can prove ageism. It's not very hard to do, and I'll tell you how. Go to your SOC team, see what the average age is. The average age in your SOC's 25, ageism. The average rate of maybe managers is 28, ageism. Because that's just the bottom line. That's like a career projection, a career path, and we're not very flexible in looking at mid-career changes. See, the average age per role in a company will pretty much let you know that there is ageism.
I don't know. I want to play devil's advocate though. Like, so, I mean, it could be a supply thing. Like, what if the people who are out there really aren't applying for the same roles? And so you have just more younger people applying for those types of roles, those entry-level roles. I know, I'm just kind of like, you just gave an example of somebody mid-career changer. I get that. But what if there aren't as many people applying for these entry-level roles where they're mid-level?
There are, but they're not getting the opportunity. So here's what happens. And I've seen this. So I've witnessed this. And I think many of us can attest to this without actually saying it, but there are cases where ageism is evident, where an HR manager will look at a CV and say, well, this person's got 10 years of experience and nothing to do with IT, but they've got the certs, and here you go. They don't want to hire them, or we're not sure we should, give them a chance to get in. I've seen it. I mean, I've been in job fairs, right?
Experience.
Where they're going like, well, they're overqualified for the position. And you're like, well, what's overqualified for a position? So that's one of the problems that we have with hiring, right? And this kind of goes back into the whole birth of CISO Thursdays, right, Naomi? And kind of like, your, the Cybersecurity Gate Breakers Foundation and so much more of that is this. We go into these places and we imagine this role, right? And we build this role out. And then we go to hire for this role, but we're kind of like building this requirement, and we're not willing to look outside of it. So what ends up happening is these people end up getting stuck in a system where they don't even get the chance, or if they get the chance, because let's say someone sent us someone's CV and we go, hey, wonderful, here's this guy's CV or girl's CV. And we look at it and we go, well, they've got great experience. You know what? Let's bring them. So we bring them in and they go, they're overqualified, instead of building a career path for this person. So saying, we're bringing them in to fill this headcount, right? This headcount's going to be that headcount for X amount of time. And then we're going to move them on to other headcounts. And we're going to build a career path for them. We don't do that. We hire someone and we think that they should do that job forever.
I think like Alan Alford on his podcast yesterday, he mentioned it's not like, forget the head count. It's like cycle time. Like we need bodies to be able to accomplish all these work cycles, and then don't just think of it as head count. So now you brought someone in and they're overqualified for this particular job cycle or this workload, move them up to a different workload, move them up to something else. Like, just don't think of it all statically.
Yeah.
I'm reading through some of these poll answers, and I'll just say 264 votes right now. It's a fair, even break. It's like, is ageism a problem in cybersecurity? A quarter of the respondents said no, ageism is not a problem. Everyone else said yes. About a third of them said, yeah, I've experienced this personally. About 20% say I've witnessed it. 24% say that they know someone affected. So I don't know. This is an interesting one. The comments are interesting too. It's like, hey, 35, I'm feeling the discrimination already. And then one person actually said, the worst thing that I could have done in my career was to pass 40. That's just depressing. Yeah.
So the official, they say the official, like, ageism, like if you have a lawsuit, the official number is 40. So that's why they'll ask about people over 40. Like, are you over 40 if you're having a situation in your company? Some comments here. Well, being on the other side of this is painful. I've seen exactly what James is talking about, where hiring managers are like, oh, we want, they describe everything instead of saying, without saying, I want somebody 25. We want, they don't say early career, but they say all these other things, energetic and this and that and that and this and that. Like a person that's over 40 can't be that. Learning, willing to learn quickly, willing to learn, pick up new technology, somebody that's savvy, blah, 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 blah. Well, an older person can be savvy too. They can pick up all that stuff too. So there definitely is discrimination when it comes to age. I have witnessed it. I push back a lot of the times when I hear stuff like that, because I think it's pretty disgusting. And to Chris's, example and point, you have seasoned people that bring in so much more, could be the hardest worker, could be the harder worker, can be the person that's going to be, reliable, or may be more reliable than, someone else who is younger. There's a zillion reasons why it shouldn't happen. But it does happen. It's very real. I've seen it in person, especially in IT. A lot. Most of the recruiting I've done over my career has been IT. And it is very much like, oh, bring a person in and the resume says one thing, or if the resume goes too far. Some of the things that I've talked to people about is if they have an extensive, if they've been around since 70 something, you don't have to put the year you graduated college. You don't have to put every job you've had, anything past 20 years, the technology has changed. But yeah, people show up. Like Pam is just saying this. Pam says, I've definitely experienced ageism. I was ignored as soon as I sat for the interview. So you come in, you show the resume, you show up, you look like, what they don't expect. And if a hiring manager is in their 20s or 30s, and I think this was, if I remember correctly, why 35 was the point is because people kind of peak in their career. Like a lot of the managers become and leaders and stuff are getting to that point at 35. And there's a couple of different dynamics at play. So, somebody quote younger than you or whatever that you feel like you can mentor and manage, and that kind of thing comes into play. Somebody that's more seasoned, you may think of as a challenge if you're the person in that role. So it could be, oh, we think that they're not going to pick it up in this and that, but really it's like, oh, is this person here to take my job? Like they've done this before, all of that kind of stuff comes into play. So a couple comments that I want to post up here. Paul talked about omnidirectional ageism, meaning from both, everybody can get it, Zoe says. Joshua says, I'm kind of in that boat. I'm 30 and attempting to transition to cyber from a warehouse job.
Yeah, 30 is not old at all. Gosh.
30 is not old at all. So Larry Rosen says, how about the reverse? I've actually found that in certain niches, the quote, gray hairs are a plus. I think that I agree. I think that seasoning is, there's nothing like mentorship or people who've been through it before. They've been through the fire already. They can coach other folks. I have no clue why it exists. Paul says, a person Chris and I mentor has absolutely lost roles because he is over 50. He knows ageism based on candid conversations with the interview teams.
I wonder if this person has actually called it out while it's happening, because certainly it's happening, right? If this is his reason for not getting the job. So if he actually said something during the interview or during the hiring process, just say, hey, I know you might think I'm older, but here are the reasons why I'd be an awesome asset to your team. And just start calling out the BS that he might be seeing. I think people would stop and think, yeah, you know what? You might be right.
It takes an awful lot of confidence that someone who's hoping to get a role might not exude, because they might come off as cocky or asshole-ish maybe. Like they feel that if they say that, like that's how it will be looked at. So they try not to do that.
I get that. But that is your chance to show them that you have emotional intelligence and the ability to communicate and influence and persuade. So that's like another opportunity for you to shine,
Well, I think they may not want to do it for other reasons too, like because people talk and other people talk, and they, if you point it out to one, if you and James have two roles and I say to James, hey, you're not hiring me because I'm old, and then James talks to you about it, then you might not want to, like it may be looked at as potentially combative or making up, because you can't, there is a way to prove it, but like, how are you proving it in that place and putting that person on the other person on the defensive? Because immediately those people are going to be like, oh no, it's never because of that. Like they're not going to admit what they're doing.
Well, I think
that's a tough spot to be in.
So look at it like this. Let me play devil's advocate for a moment, because Naomi and I like to switch off who does that every once in a while. One of the reasons you may not hire someone who's a bit older for an entry-level role is because you're concerned that the compensation package, which was a topic we talked about last week, right, might be too low for this person. Meaning that an entry-level cyber role could be starting people, based on your survey, it's $60,000 a year, $65,000 a year?
It's less. Yeah, it's less. It's in the 50s.
So think you hire someone for an entry-level cyber role that's making $55,000 a year, just as an example. And this person's 43 with 2 kids, a wife, and a mortgage. As a hiring manager, at that point, that becomes a risk analysis, right? Is this person going to stick around for $55,000 a year? Or could this be just a small stop on his path to a greater role?
But that could be anybody.
Well, yeah, but you know what? When you're 24 and after college, or you just finished a boot camp, it's a little different because you don't have all the responsibility. So 55, I'm not saying 55 is enough, but I'm saying 55 is livable. But when you're a family of 4 off of 55, how livable is that? I mean, and I'm coming at it from, again, a devil's advocate. I'm not saying excuses it, but
the other side for that is let that person make that determination. Like, we don't know what people have in their lives. They could be independently wealthy and just want to, this is what they love to do, or maybe they have a sugar mom. I don't know. Like,
we went straight there.
Renee, whoa.
She went right to sugar mama. She's like, he's got a sugar mama. He be dropping.
He just wants something to do all day. This is what he wants to do. No,
or 55 could be more than what he's currently making. Like, you never know. Yeah,
that's another thing.
Changing careers. 55 is awesome.
But hang on. But that goes to our conversation from last week. And this all kind of ties together. Because last week we talked, if anyone missed last week's episode, go back and watch it. Because we were talking about, should you be getting paid the same no matter where you are? Meaning, should cost of living even be accounted for in your salary considerations? Well, having said that, now we go into ageism, right? And that topic now becomes even clearer, right? I know, and I've heard these conversations on different Slack channels, and I've been in some Zoom calls where I've heard leaders say, I wanted to hire this person, but he had kids at home. I wanted to give him a shot, but because we're doing work from home, I wasn't sure this person could be onboarded correctly and brought in, so we just passed.
Is there a term for that? Someone mentioned familyism. Like, if you have little kids
all day long. Like,
that's just crappy people.
That's just, they just didn't want to hire the person. Like, people, that's the thing. People are going to come up with all the excuses instead of the real.
Is that legitimate? Is that legitimate?
So don't we all have children?
Well, we all have our things.
I'm talking about children. I'm talking about, yes, we all have children, right? We all have children. Absolutely. Yes, we all have children.
Yes. So that's that. I mean, it's done. And we're all,
Well, they're using it as an excuse. They're using it as an excuse rather than calling it ageism.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's really ageism versus this other. So now what is it? Anti-parent, parentism or whatever. Like, I don't want to hire people that have kids. I don't think they're going to be onboarded. They come up with all these various things.
Let's think about women who've left their careers to have children and come back. The gap. Oh, that's a risk. They've been gone for too many years. I don't think they could take it back up. What BS is that?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. So my wife's pregnant. She's due under 2 months, right? Very, very excited.
Baby CISO.
Baby CISO. Hashtag baby CISO.
Thank you. Hashtag baby CISO. But my wife's a career woman. I met her. She had her own business already, right? She was like my boss, and she had her own company at the same time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sugar mama.
Sugar mama.
She was my sugar mama for a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, right?
He knows.
No. I absolutely love and adore my wife, and so she's a career woman. She has her own business. Right? Like, my wife doesn't work for anyone. She works for herself. She's been doing that for 12 years. So she's having a baby. So she's taking a few months off. And in doing that, she's concerned. She's taken 6 to 7 weeks off of her own business. And she's concerned that customers aren't going to stick around. She's had one customer tell her, listen to this. Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll pause your contract and we'll pick it up next year, once you're back and feeling okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just making assumptions about somebody. That's just a dick move. Like, we do this to ourselves and to each other. We tell stories about ourselves and each other that really aren't true. Like, I had somebody, in a frantic message send me about a year ago, actually, when the pandemic started. He's like, I got an interview, but when I emailed them on a Saturday, they didn't reply to me by Monday. Does that mean we didn't get the job? I didn't get the job. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that they were probably not at their email. Like, they didn't respond over the weekend. Don't tell yourselves these stories that aren't true. And we do this constantly. We tell ourselves stories that aren't true. We don't have the evidence that proves your theory. Like, think of the bigger picture here. You're just lying to yourself.
It's ridiculous. I know Chris has to go soon, so I'm going to go through you. Bye, Chris.
He always leaves early.
Bye, Chris.
He needs a sugar mama.
Right when it's getting good.
Chris, you need a sugar mama.
Yeah. Paul says, as a 20-year Navy IT vet, I personally was told overqualified or I couldn't keep up with younger candidates. So they told him point blank, you can't keep up with younger candidates.
That's a lawsuit right there. You should have recorded that shit and sued them.
I mean, they said it to you straight to your face. That's crazy.
A definition of a lawsuit.
Veterans got it. Yeah, they got the ageism thing and then the military thing, right? Like all of the assumptions, all the stigmas,
military stigma, jarhead stigma.
Man.
Brooklyn 29 says, I thought they're not supposed to ask about age. So they don't, but they assess. Times have changed. 40 plus is not old. Who you telling? But they assess. So they look at the resume. Oh, it's 20 years experience. They tack on, figure, okay, you started working at 20 or 22 or whatever. And then add that all up. Or you show up and, you look older. And then they proceed from there. So they don't out and out ask you, but they make an assessment based on either your LinkedIn profile, your resume, all that kind of stuff. Paul says they don't need to ask when someone provides a chronological resume. Boom, done. Exactly. Is this Ajay Age? Tell me how to pronounce your name. Overqualified is a scapegoat term. My response to that is typically, I'm fully qualified for the role, but have additional experience in the skills you need. That's absolutely correct. I do know, to James's point earlier when he said managers think, is this person going to stick around? My pushback when I do hear managers talk about this, I'm like, if you look at, and I don't have the statistic in front of me, but there is a statistic around, I don't know if it's millennials or Gen Z, that the average amount of time that they stay in a role is something like 9 months or 10 months, something like that, 11 months, like under a year. Wow. So that goes out the window. Like they're likely not staying at your job longer than a year anyway. That's
a great point. Yeah.
So, when you start hitting people with the data points, then it's just like, what is this really? Like, what are you really up to?
But that's the problem. It's misuse of data, right? So you don't have solid data. And so when you don't have solid data, people make assumptions. And these are what you can call biases that go into the unconscious bias. And we can use it in a term that really does apply here when it comes to ageism.
Oh my God, that's such a good term. We should talk about that next week.
Unconscious bias. I love that topic.
I love that. So, hey, Cedric. Cedric said, hello, everyone. Hey, Cedric, I missed you last night. Last night we had Federal Career Connections on, and Cedric is always at our Federal Career Connection talk. So Ajay says, I also often say, if you're undergoing surgery, would you prefer the first-year intern or the head of surgery to conduct your procedure? Both
first-year intern.
Both are fully qualified.
First-year intern.
So there it is.
Intern.
Terry
depends on the surgery.
You know why I'll take a first-year intern every time? It's fresh. They're more thorough. They're taking their time.
Mm-hmm. And they have somebody right there with them. That's what happened with my C-section. I had like a baby-faced doctor doing my C-section. I'm like, who are you? But he was fully confident. He did a great job. I am still here. Like he did great. He was a doctor, very handsome man. And I was just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess this is happening. I don't know who you are. But yeah, go ahead and cut me open and get my guts out. Sure.
I think that's what was it Alan? I think it may have been Alan that talked about the malpractice lawsuits on young or newer physicians versus older ones because they're fresher, newer, paying more attention. It's not kind of rote in their minds anymore, like, oh, I've done this before type of thing. And you get more malpractice lawsuits. I believe that was what he said.
The older they are. Yes.
Yeah. So Terry says, I think it's ageism as well as familyism, probably not a word, it's nepotism. But jobs in cyber companies teams too want to go for people that are younger and do not have, so it isn't nepotism, it really is familyism. Wanting to go for people that are younger and do not have families due to the assumption that the employee will be able to work more, super bad assumption. Women face this often with pregnancy and family planning. Wow. So just what James said. James had the example. Zoe's laughing at my sugar mama comment. And Cedric says, sugar mama, LOL, I missed this podcast. Yeah, we always got something juicy going on here. Paul says, in each of your opinions, could the topic of why an older person would want a role at a lower pay or over 40 be used in a candidate's thank you letter?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Goes great on a cover letter too. It doesn't have to be before or after your interview. This could get explain your story. That's what the cover letter's for. Explain why you're interested in this role, why you're interested in this company, and why you think you'd be a great fit. It's a perfect place for a cover letter. And literally, like, so few people write cover letters. It would make you stand out. So go ahead and try it. Yeah.
And this is where the networking comes in, because, you know, if I know someone and I know they're over 40 or 50 or whatever, and I'm like, look, this person is good, this person is great, you need to hire them. Like, you're not thinking, hopefully, oh, this is a quote older person and they're not going to be able to get it. You just know, like, oh, this person comes highly referred, they're good, hire them. That's where the networking part comes in. So again, the blind applicant tracking system stuff.
Yep. It's blind hiring. Yeah.
Yeah. Finley says, I would say if you're coming in older as a career changer, there's definitely ageism. I'm smart enough to know what to expect from an entry-level role as far as pay. If it was an issue, I wouldn't be trying to get the position. Exactly. Like, why are we acting like...
That's a good point. Yeah, Finley knows what's up. Finley knows what's up. Like, why would I apply to your role if I knew I wouldn't be there long term?
Right.
I'm
looking for 100,000 when I know it's a $60,000 job. I mean...
I just want to point something out, okay? And it's something... Again, I'm going to put on the devil's advocate role for just a minute here. You hire someone, even though they know what the job is, you're kind of thinking they're using you as a jumping block for a next role.
Isn't everybody though, James? Like, that's to Renee's point.
Hang on, I completely agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. Everyone uses one job as a building block for another.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have... You'll take a job for a year sweeping the floors at Chase if you can, to have JP Morgan Chase on your CV. If you were wanting to get into financial services, you would. And you put like operations manager for janitorial services. Right? Like you would. Yeah. Right? I've seen that. But what we're talking about here is the bigger challenge isn't that you know how much you're getting paid, is the fact that the data is so skewed by hiring managers. So the data is so skewed that they're not thinking about, well, like Chris brought up before he dropped, maybe they're independently wealthy. Maybe they had a good job before in their previous career, but they felt unaccomplished or doing a career change, and they've got enough money to live off of it for the next 3 years, saved up, where it will supplement whatever you're paying them, right?
A sugar mama.
Way up. Or a sugar mama or a sugar daddy, you name it, whatever, right? Like why has it got to be a sugar mama?
Sugar mama Thursdays. Yeah.
You're just assuming that men want to do a mid-career transition. You're not complimenting women that want to do the same exact thing.
I'm being biased today.
It's the biases. Yeah, I think we need to hear better stories.
Is more fun.
Well, we need to base our decisions on data. And I think that's the biggest problem. The challenge here is there isn't any data. So one of the things I would do if I was a candidate who was older, because I got to drop in a few, I'm sorry, I have something I got to get done. But I will say this. If I was a candidate, because I want to offer my solution and drop. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a bit of a soapbox here. If I'm a candidate, I'm going for a job, right? I want to get something. I want to get any sort of position anywhere. Right? And you're going for lower pay or whatever that is, give a very good explanation to it. Just put it out there. Really get on.
This connection again. Your connection's weird. It's been spotty.
How about now? Because I haven't had any connection issues until we do the show, and I want to say something.
No, until you start going on your rant, that's when it happens.
That's when LinkedIn goes.
It's a conspiracy theory, Jim. Yeah.
LinkedIn's like shadow ban.
It's China.
It's
China.
Shadow ban. Enter.
Say it again, but slower, so shadow ban doesn't get you.
I forgot where I was.
Start from the beginning.
Where was I?
We couldn't hear any of that.
Damn.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was great.
It was, but now I've lost it. I was on the.
Oh, James.
All right, we can talk about it.
Yeah, you had your solution. Remember?
Was there a solution, James? You lost it.
Come on, it's in.
Oh man.
The solution is to not be an asshole. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, if you are a hiring manager or you're in the team that's treating someone like crap because of their age, like, stop doing that. Maybe
it's back. Data driven. Back up your data in your thank you letter. Back up your data in your cover letter. So go out, get some really impactful data that supports why they should pick you. And use that data as part of a reference, whether it be on your thank you letter, cover letter, part of your interview. That's all really, really important because data is everything. And I believe that good managers want to make decisions not based on biases or isms, but based on data. And that's the society we live in today. We live in the era of data, and that's a critical aspect of it as well. And I've got to drop, folks. So
thanks,
I will
James.
see you next week. And Naomi, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, yeah, wherever this thing happens, yes.
Good point, James. Bye.
But James has a really good point. If you think someone's going to use a fact against you, you might as well address it right away. So I think Tyrion Lannister, if you guys watch Game of Thrones, the actor, I forget his name right now, but he's like famously quoted as like, once you acknowledge your flaws, they can't use it against you. And I'm not saying being older, 40, like I'm 40, I don't consider this a flaw. Like, but if you think somebody would consider your age a flaw, no matter where you sit on the age range, like if you think people would think it's a flaw, then just address it. Be upfront and say, this is the reason why it's not a flaw. Here's the reasons why it's a benefit for your company or for myself or for this role. And you address it head on and no one can use that against you. What's the name of Tyrion? What's his name? I forget. He's great.
I'm curious how that would work with all the different ones though, because sexism, racism, discrimination based on sexual orientation. I mean, there's so many different.
All the isms. Yeah. I mean, maybe, but like ageism is kind of like the more obvious one, I think. I don't know. It's harder to prove maybe. And I had a mentee actually come up to me. He was all worried. He was like, I'm really concerned because all I've had are these phone calls. And I'm worried that when I get on the face-to-face, they're going to just know I'm old and they're not going to want to hire me. And I said, Mark, don't worry about it. They already know you're old. It's just like they already know your CV and like you've heard your voice. And I'm just going to say, Mark, you don't sound like the youngest, spring chicken. So they already know. Like, and if you're already past that point where they want to talk to you more, like consider that a win. They're looking for someone just like you and don't worry about it. And so he was all in a thing telling stories about him, in his mind, telling false stories again. And I'm just like, don't worry about it. They already know you're old. Just continue. Yeah.
No, but it's discouraging when for all types of different reasons, right? When something happens and it's either whatever it is, and it's just like, oh, they don't want me because I'm a vet. Oh, they don't want me because I'm Black. Oh, they don't want me because I'm a woman. Oh, they don't want me because I'm Latino. Oh, they don't, like all the different things. And then, oh, they don't want me because of my age, like whatever it is, you're right. Like the story that you're telling yourself. And yes, some people are not going to want you for these various reasons. And guess what?
You don't want to work for them anyway.
I don't want to work for anybody that doesn't want exactly how I am.
Let's talk about the reverse though, because I'm looking at the poll results and the people who are answering, yes, I've experienced ageism personally. When I look at their profile photos, most of them are younger, which is like to my mind, I'm like, ooh, so they're experiencing it from maybe during their role, not during the hiring. I'm guessing. I'm just making this up. But so in the job itself, like, so they are being treated differently or they're being, discriminated against for their age. But you look at their profile pictures and they're a lot younger. So I want to talk about that. Do you think ageism is happening on the job too?
Oh, it's definitely happening on the job.
So to whom? Is it to the younger folks? Because this is most of the people answering yes. I've had it happen to me, which means it's happening to them.
I'd be curious as to what I'd be very curious as to what their experience has been. It probably is like they feel like they can do like if they trying to get promoted or whatever. I don't know. I'm not making stuff up. I'm listening. I'm thinking about what people have said to me, like, oh, I can do this. I'm qualified. I have the credentials or whatever, but they hired they promoted the older person, the seasoned, the person that has more years, that is more seasoned. It could have something to do with that. But
I mean, that makes sense for leadership roles, right? You're going to expect someone to have like 10 plus years before they become a CISO or a security leader. I get that. So, but for like individual contributor roles, are people experience ageism for the IC roles. I really hope not. Like, that would be so depressing. It's just a whole nother
It
level
would
of
be very depressing.
Right. I would love to hear your stories in the comments. If you guys could just put some in there. I know some really good ones. Cynthia said, yeah, it goes both ways. Kyle says, I'm not that old, but yeah.
So Manoj says, not that I see ageism around me. It's almost non-existent at my company/group, but have heard of the Uber statement, you quote, you are not a culture fit, which can include ageism, familyism, and everything else. So the culture fit thing also is very, very tricky. Yes, it could include all of that, but it could really be the culture, like for real. So I'll give a good example. I give this one example. We were hiring someone in our team at the time, and we had 2 seasoned people in the role, and I knew their personalities, and we had and me and my manager, and we had and the role was the 2 seasoned people were very opinionated, right? So we had like these 2 people seasoned in their role, knew what they were doing, very, very opinionated. And so when people started to come in, so thinking about the culture of the team, right? Not necessarily the company per se, but of this little group. So you think about these 2 who are like, battling each other constantly. And then thinking about the other people that were being interviewed to come in. So there was another woman, very qualified, came in. I mean, everybody comes to an interview is qualified. So that's another thing, guys. If you get to an interview on paper, you're qualified, done, period. It's now like, are you going to get well with the team? It's other stuff, right? And this is where the culture part comes in. So we had this person, very qualified, but I could see her and the other ones. I could just imagine, like, you're asking the questions, you could see them, and they loved it. And I'm looking at it saying to my manager, I don't think this is the right fit. Not that she's not qualified, not that everything else, but I didn't think she was the right fit. So anyway, we ended up going with, so this woman seasoned, multiple 20 years experience, I don't know. Ended up going with a college grad, or, somebody that was like a couple years out of college. And he came back to me. My boss was like, you assessing this was the best situation, because now we had this person who was more amenable, flexible, like, just different experiences versus what we thought potentially could have happened. And granted, maybe not, but if you've interviewed as much as I've interviewed, you kind of get a feeling like, oh, this dynamic might not work. So I say that to say culture fit, and leaders see this all the time. They're assessing. They could see if someone's going to come in and be a pushover when you need somebody to be a hard ass, if somebody you need to be a little bit more calm and whatever when you need, so there's various kind of things that go into that. So that's where the culture stuff comes in. So it's not always, it definitely is sometimes a lot of the other ism stuff, but a lot of times it's just purely like, is this person going to fit on a team? When you think about sports teams, basketball teams, things like that, like, do you want 2 LeBron Jameses on the team? No, you can't have that kind of stuff. So,
but for knowledge workers, though, you don't need the young people all the time. You need diversity of thought and experiences.
I 100% agree.
It's so frustrating. So I think it just comes down to training the trainers, like teaching the hiring managers on how to unconscious bias hiring, blind hiring, like give them resources and practical tips on how to hire great teams. And we don't do that well. Like we are great at training the new generation. We're great at training them. Like we have plenty of nonprofits and organizations and like places like Cyber, right? They do great. But then we ignore people once they get in. They're just like, okay, now that you're hiring, we assume that you're going to be great at hiring and that you're going to be great at interviewing, where the opposite is completely true. Like we absolutely have no idea what we're doing when we're writing job descriptions or doing interviews, right? Like, or looking through resumes. We have no idea because no one's ever taught us, and there's no resources out there. Yes, there are actually. AskAManager.org is great. But if you don't know where they are and you don't level yourself up, no one is ever going to do that. They're going to assume that you know what you're doing, which is completely false.
Yep, totally. Zoe said she thinks it's millennials. I think that comment was from because she said it's more millennials than
the Gen Z.
Gen Zs like her, because and that was the comment that I made when I talked about people turning over, and I think it was 11 months. There's a Gabrielle Roche, I think.
That is so short. And
there's a millennial.
Yeah. If I were hired. Yeah, I when I look at resumes, I want to see not the job gaps. I don't care about job gaps. I want to be very clear. It's the short stints for me. If anything is like 9 months or less, and I see a few of them in a row, then I'm just like, you know what? That's a pass. That's a pass because I want someone for at least a year. Now, I certainly have short stints. My shortest is like 16 months, and I have 3 that are within 1 and 2 years. That to me is not job hopping. This is like 18 months is a good enough time to get your feet under you. You've done your job well, especially in the individual contributor role. You're not like doing anything crazy by leaving after 18 months. And I've done that several times, even within the company I stayed at for 12 years. Every 2 years, every 18 months, I switched roles. And I never felt that I was job hopping. But 9 months or fewer, that to me feels a little bit short. What do you think, Renee? What do you think job hopping is? What's the time frame?
That's short. I mean,
9 months. Yeah.
9 months is pretty short. Like what have, excuse me, what have you accomplished? What can you typically, I mean, it takes a while, and granted, there are some speed demons out here, but a consistent 9, 10, 11 months, that's like, you didn't get a chance to even make a full cycle. Like think about being in school like that. I mean, anything, it's usually like a full year, hopefully. That is definitely a very short cycle.
I think that depends also on the market and the country, because I did talk to somebody who was in Africa, and he had several stints that were like 4 months and less. Yeah. And he was having no problem getting jobs, like at all.
Little contracts.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, if you're a contractor, I mean, I get the contract space. Like if you're a contractor and they need you for like a 6 month stay here and a 4 month stay there and whatever, like that makes sense. But if you're a full-time employee and you're 9 months here and 9 months there, it's just like, what I really want to dig in. I really want to understand, like, what is happening that you have all of this. And when I start to hear, I saw somebody's resume recently, and it was just like, this doesn't, and they were looking again, like they were at something and you're on the phone with me. Why are you looking again? Oh, I'm always keeping my options open. It's just like, so if I place you at this company, then you're likely going to leave there in 9 months too. Like,
that's a burn bridge. Yeah. Just be really careful. As word gets around in cybersecurity, you don't want to be on the bad list.
It's a bit much. Okay. So, Al says, right. Be happy for employees who will be loyal for years, meaning like usually more seasoned employees are used to, like, you think about people who are over 40, like they are typically used to being in a job hopping for folks over 40 was like 2-3 years. Like if it was anything under a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago when I was recruiting, or 6 years ago, if you had less than 4 years or less than 3 years and all these little 2-year stints, they looked at stints as 2 years.
Wow, that's what I have every 2 years. I'm just bored.
2 years, which is not a stint, that's significant enough. But people would say, I don't know. You would have leaders who think about, again, this is where the isms and stuff come in. Like think about what their experience is. So if they were the 55-year-old manager like 10 or 20 years ago, who had to stay in a company for 10 years and kind of go through the ranks and feel like that's what they needed to do.
That's changing.
Which is what we tend to hear a lot with the whole, they can't break into security. They need 2 years of this and to do that and this and this and this. And then they see a resume that has someone that's been somewhere for 3 years, and the person could have been 3 years is a totally successful 3-3-3. They're like, oh, why are they jumping around every 3 years? You're like, folks, this is not,
That's because they don't know. No one's ever told them it's okay to hire somebody with 3 years. That's not job hopping. So again, showing the data, James has a great point. We need more proof. We need social proof. We need stories. We need to tell each other the positives of hiring for different ages and the diversity of thought and experience. And that's what's lacking. We always kind of focus on the negative in cybersecurity. I don't know why. I think we're just more paranoid than most folks. But like, if we actually focus on the good that we see, and just be grateful for what we have, like we will be absolutely in a better place rather than the toxicity that we see sometimes.
Yeah. Cynthia Hughes is here. Yeah. So Cynthia is saying, I agree that all isms are present in all working environments. That is so true. It's not only tech and security, but you have some that are more flexible than others. I've seen in tech, especially, it tends to be very, the younger person versus, from what I understand, like my mom's a retired nurse. She could probably go get a job tomorrow. They'll be like, sure, come on back. Like, 95, come back. 88, come back, whatever. Versus, folks in technology that start to feel that different rub. So, I don't know if education works that way too, like different industries, but I know in tech it's definitely high. So, Cynthia says, what is a solution or some best practices to try to avoid or get around the isms that exist today, which is what you talked about, which is what James talked about. So, and I know Cynthia said, thank you further down in the comments. Kyle says, I've seen ageism in play. It was assumed an older person 50 plus was going to be out of date with recent developments in the field. I saw that play out. It was brought on by them already having hired a guy who was in that age group that turned out to be a bad hire as his knowledge was lacking. So they moved that experience into the conversation analysis of a new candidate for future roles. That happens too. Like you hire one person, that person ends up being a bad hire, and you go, and if another person that looks similar on the surface shows up, it's like, I'm not doing that again because that's what happened.
That comes down to like being a dick person. Like just be individuals, and you look at somebody as an individual, not as like a group. You can't just assume things about people. You can't assume my lived experience just because of what I look like. Same with you, Renee. Like, do people do that to you? Probably. And do we do that as a human thing? Like, I get that, but get beyond that part, right? Like look at somebody as an individual, not as like the assumed biases that you bring onto this group of people. Yeah, I'm Asian. Yeah, I'm female. Yeah, I'm a mom. But what else do you know about me? Like dig into it and figure out why I'd be a good fit for your team. And that's just pure laziness. Otherwise, like if you're just like, oh, she's Asian, she must be good at math, right? Like those are some lazy ass assumptions. Like please get over yourself. Be better.
Be better, do better. But you're right, the data, because people they come up with whatever whatever experience they've had. I've realized especially that experiences are so hard to shake. So, if you had a bad experience with a specific type of person or somebody that reminds you of this person or whatever, it's very hard to overlook, the situation. So unfortunately, it's human nature, but being cognizant, that's where the unconscious bias comes in. Like, okay, because some people do it and they don't even realize they're doing it. Like, oh,
that's why
didn't you hire that person? Or why didn't you think about this? Versus with the unconscious bias, it's like, okay, I realize that I don't like this person because they remind me of that person, which I shouldn't do. And, like at least you could go through your mind.
But then when you figure that out, then you can get past that point. And like, that's the whole point. Like be self-aware and be like, hold on, I'm making all these assumptions of somebody, whatever they are, whatever title they have, whatever they look like. And then you get to that point that you realize you're doing it and then don't do it anymore. Like, and then you like consciously unbias yourself,
Larry Rosen says, when I was in a hiring role, I found less than 10% sent thank you letters or cover letters. So there you go. Your thank you letter and your cover
That will
letter.
make you stand out. A cover letter will make you stand out. Go to askamanager.org, how to write a great cover letter and resume. Allison Green, she puts that blog together. She has 10 years worth of questions and answers on things like resumes, cover letters, what to do in an interview, how to change jobs, how to be a good hiring manager, stuff like that. That is my go-to resource, by the way, askamanager.org. Amazing website.
Awesome. Paul says, yes, expose your vulnerabilities and make them a strength. So tons of thank yous to James. So even though James is gone, James, your comments and what you said really resonated there. Terry says, awesome use of a Game of Thrones reference. This podcast is great. Clinton Walker. Hey, Clinton Walker. Hello, guys. Good to see you, Naomi Buckwalter. Looks like you have a tan going. You do.
I've been on the beach every weekend. Yeah, I play beach volleyball every weekend on New Jersey beaches. Yeah.
Nice.
Peter Dinklage. Thank you, Paul. That's who it was. Yes, he's a great actor. He's the actor who plays Tyrion. Yeah. So he's a short person. I think they're called little people. But he used to. He told stories in the past where people used to make fun of him. He used to like hold him back from going for roles and stuff. And then he realized once he got over that and he addressed it forthright, like people would stop using that against him, and they no longer can't hurt him with that. Right. So yeah,
can't hurt you anymore. That's true.
Exactly.
So Cynthia says, I have done that before I apply for any position. I research a job and view resumes to see what keywords are being used. So I guess that's what people are talking about with. But that doesn't seem to work either. Isms will never go away, and I truly don't think there will ever be a solution. Naomi, Cynthia also says, Naomi, you were making some comments and she was saying amen to that. And it goes
Oh yeah, the ageism both ways. Yeah, it's
both
just
ways.
pure ageism. Just like racism is just racism. Like it doesn't matter who it's against. It's like still bad. It's like racism. That's all it is.
You can't burn your energy like trying to educate the world. It's just
I know.
Be better. That's all I can say. Kyle says, I'm not old yet, in parentheses, I don't think under 40, but this does concern me when I want to make sure I'm making the right decisions now to be able to progress my career enough that by the time it could be a thing, I'm in a position that it won't affect me. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And that's what was so shocking to me when I was doing this research like 10 years ago and the professor was like 35 and I wasn't 35. And I was just like, what, 35? What?
So young.
So again, it becomes, it's the progressing in your career or really deciding what you want to do and getting to that point as soon as possible. So Paul says, I think the ageism within the job exists as favoritism. That could be true. So ageism within the roles definitely that definitely exists because that's a lot of the times, especially the internal promotions, things like that. Those things come into play in there too. So Cynthia says, if I'm older and think a younger person can replace me, then ageism is an issue. If I'm younger with not a lot of experience, then ageism will play a part, meaning both ways.
Yeah, but when you're younger, you're always going to grow older, right? So like it won't be forever, but for the older folks, they're always just going to have worse and worse and worse. So I could see like the lower end of that ageism thing, like that's not as big of a problem, I would say, in my opinion.
I agree with you. Paul Cummings says Cyber Future Foundation is doing great things in this area as well. They create apprenticeship programs for candidates they have with their Society of Mentors. So this is, I think, somebody's comments here.
Yeah, Cyber Future Foundation, CFF, they're great. They work with all the different groups of people trying to break them in, and they do it the right way.
Paul says there's a great article about this. The millennial Gen Z aren't wanting to work in cyber because they don't get instant gratification and rather would be an influence of change. Very interesting. Paul, send us that article.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one. I think that's true about all the younger generations, no matter what they're called. But like, we always want to live for a purpose. Like when I was younger, I was like, screw money. I just want to change the world, right? But then like reality hits and then you have a house and a mortgage. And kids, you're like,
like pay me.
Yeah,
I want to change the world, but pay me. Cynthia says, in education, the degree is greater than the experience. So
what? That makes no sense. Wow.
The degree. So you could be, I guess, a younger person. And it's so interesting that Cynthia says that because another person I was working with, helping someone with their resume. And I said, what do they look for? And they were like, they want the PhD and they want to have, they want this specific. So you could be, I guess, 25 with the PhD, 0 experience, and that works versus someone with the more extensive experience, but not the credentials. So interesting.
God bless our teachers, Lord. We need to pay them more.
Oh my God, they need immediate raises.
Immediate raises.
Immediate.
Oh my God.
Cynthia says, I always use a cover letter. As you said, Naomi, it makes you stand out. Totally makes you stand out.
It does. I love cover letters. Really, I do. Please send them. Even if it's just to say hi.
Oh my goodness. Okay, 2 more comments because it's 2:02 p.m. Eastern. Aaron says, not so much knowledge and more concerned about their ability to adapt and be open-minded to today's environments. When stubbornness can be a major problem, think about your parents and grandparents and they're willing to change. It's not right, but that is probably the bigger concern. Well, he's making a point of what really it is. Like that is the concern, that this person is, quote, older, they're set in their ways, they don't want to change, blah, 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 blah. Which is valid, but you can't, just because your parents don't want to do it as you talking to your mom doesn't mean that this person who's actively looking for this job that is going and getting it, they're qualified because they're sitting in front of you. So they've done something to get there. But it's kind of like what Naomi said earlier in terms of being open. But
and look at them.
This is really what it is. Like this is Aaron makes a very valid point. This is what it is. Like we think these people person is gonna tell me what to do versus me telling them what to do.
Yeah, or just look at them like an individual. Strip away as much as you can. That takes away as much unconscious bias as you have, and just say like, if this person were right next to me and they were like just a normal person that I would think is a person on the street. Like, would they be good for this job? And like just pick a random person and like pretend that's them, instead of just like giving them this whole aura and bias
But again, it goes to kind of what I talked about. They think, like, I'm thinking, would I want to hire my mom? Hire somebody that's going to be like, Renee, you didn't do this. Renee, you gained so much weight. Renee, blah, 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 blah.
And there's like ego there too. Like, why wouldn't I want to hire somebody who's better than, like, I want to hire someone who's smarter than me, like to help me grow, right? Like obviously we're going to have strengths and weaknesses. Give me someone who's stronger in my weaknesses. I would love that.
Oh, right? I absolutely. I think it's the best compliment when you hire strengths, like somebody that's smarter than you, that has more experience than you in various different ways. I mean, that brings the whole team up. Oh, yeah. And there's been, people who are confident in their skills. You have some people that they're like, I know this really well. I don't know this. I need somebody to help with this. I'm really, really good at this. I need somebody to help with this. But I think with Aaron's point is that, the person who's quote, like, not going to do what you tell them to do or something like that, like trying to quote, manage your mom. Right. So I can't tell my mom, cook the food this way. She's going to be like, get out of here. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. But like, if you're the boss and someone's doing that to you, like, it's up to the boss to say something, that's just good management. You're not just going to be a doormat and let somebody walk all over you. You still have to stand up and say something, like, be a good manager. Yeah. But again, we don't get trained as managers. It's the weirdest thing. You don't get leadership training.
And that's really
the problem. That's the problem.
Because the unconscious bias, the leadership training, like all of that kind of goes together, where you're just assessed. The 360 degree, what do you call it? The 360, it's not assessments. I forget what it is, where everyone can give
feedbacks. Yeah.
Right, 360 feedback, all that kind of stuff, so that you really see where you are as a leader.
Yes, and then do something about it. Like, level up, read some personal books, like read some books about people skills. And like how to be a better manager, because we don't focus on that. And like, the whole Peter principle, where you get promoted to the level of your incompetency, right? And then you don't get any higher. So so for where you are currently, if you're in a position of leadership, you should always be learning the soft skills and learning how to be better at leadership. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. You really have to work on it.
You have to work.
Yeah.
Finley is going to be my last comment. I've always wondered how many people, cybersecurity loses access to, because they get tired of trying to open the doors that hiring managers gave.
That breaks my heart. We need more people in cybersecurity. I know. I hate this. Like, the reason why we need to have more people in cybersecurity, because we don't have enough defenders. We don't have enough defenders to win an asymmetric war. I will say war. I keep saying like fight or war, but really the cybercrime is increasingly bleeding from the virtual world into the physical. And now we're seeing evidence of that. People losing their lives, hospitals being attacked, schools, police stations. It's coming, people. And we're having a come to Jesus moment now, where it's not just data. It's not just virtual. We need more defenders. And if hiring managers are going to be gatekeeping their way through their career, like, we're never going to have that next generation. And this is why I fight so desperately hard for people to break into cybersecurity, because we need that next generation to be where we need them to be in the years in the future. Like, we just need more people. So if you're hiring, or if you're on a team and then you just go up to your boss and you say, hey, we really need to start working on the next generation. What can we do here in our company, on our team? Can we hire an intern for $20 an hour and give them no benefits or PTO? Like, I'm pretty sure you can afford that. Or can you say, can we have a shadow? Can we just have somebody, an unpaid person, like, just to see what we do? And every person can do something. You don't have to be in a hiring role.
100%. You could not have said it better. I don't have anything else to add. I agree 100%. And you're absolutely right. So we will wrap with that. It is 8 minutes after the hour.
Thanks for staying, guys.
I know we got to do it this time. Last time it was you and James. Then it was I think me and James. So we got to do it this time. And Naomi, I thank you so much for being here, sharing your expertise and your perspective, because again, the reason why I love this show, it's my favorite day of the week, is because we all come with different perspectives from different sides, and we can get on, have a great conversation, disagree, get off, hug virtually, and move on. So Joshua has an interview tomorrow for a SOC role. He wants tips. So people give him tips for that SOC role. We will see everybody here next week, 1 p.m. Eastern, CISO Thursdays. Be here, be square. Pam says, awesome discussion. Awesome. Naomi, I know you're going to be doing that thing tomorrow with Paul Cummings. So bye, everybody.
Bye.